I boldly proclaimed that this device made by EcoFlow, the Stream series, was going to change the face of home solar as we knew it. And in the comments, many of you agreed. So I've now had this permanently installed in my home for about 7 months. So I owe you a little update. Does it deliver on the claims that EcoFlow make? Is it something you should consider? And is it really that perfect sweet spot for getting more people into home solar? Now, let me start with a couple of things. If you watch the original videos, then you will have noticed that this has changed location here in my garage. And I'll explain a little bit about that in a moment. But first, what actually is this product? So this particular one, this is the Stream Ultra X. This has a 3.84 kilowatt hour battery in it, so it can store energy. This has 4 solar inputs. So you can have 4 different solar inputs, but in reality, you could wire this up so that you put 8 solar panels to it if you really wanted to. It will cap out at 2000 watts of solar though. So if it's a particularly sunny day, you wouldn't get the full output of 8 panels. 4 panels, you would be able to absolutely maximize them. One of the interesting things with this, because it has a bi-directional inverter, there are many people across the continent and across the world that are just plugging these into their regular plug sockets, just using a 3-pin plug and just popping it in, and all of the power that it takes from the house or feeds back into the house all goes through your 3-pin plug. Now, EcoFlow do a few safety measures to make sure that that's not going to be overloaded. So the inverter in this is a 1200 watt inverter, but once it's connected to the grid via the 3-pin plug, then it is capped at just 800 watts. You're not going to exactly be stressing a 13 amp plug. At 800 watts, it's only about just over 3 amps. Okay. It's got a brilliant app. It has loads of functionality, so you don't have to plug this in with solar. You can just charge up overnight if you have a cheap electricity rate at night, and then you can use that energy throughout the day to supplement your home, to supply a base load, or to be reactive to your energy demands of your home. Now this one, as you'll see, it has 2 plug sockets directly on the device, and it has a switch to turn those on and off. In the event of a power cut, then you will be able to access 1200 watts of power on one of those sockets, or mix between those 2 sockets. So in a power cut scenario, you could use this to power a fridge or medical devices or anything in an emergency. Anyway, if you want more details about that stuff, go and watch the earlier videos. This was meant to be focused on a recap of actually my findings. You might be able to see the jungle of wires here, and this was all frantically connected. So I've got all 8 cables, all 4 solar inputs, currently coming from my solar shed. We'll run down there in a minute. I'll show you how it's all wired up. But yes, I've got 6 panels fed into those 4 solar inputs, those 4 MPPTs. And the actual main cable is no longer connected into my SunSync inverter using the micro inverter function. I now have it hidden in there in a 3-pin plug, just going into a regular socket. Now to do that, I had the breaker updated to bi-directional RCBO, which is just for the circuit for this garage. So I know that in the case of any fault or anything like that, it's kind of an extra layer of safety, extra layer of precaution. This device has protection in it, that has the correct protection in it, and this circuit is an individual circuit just for this garage. It's not shared by the rest of the house. And whilst I do have a few little devices that do share the power in here, I'm not too concerned about any of those. Okay, quite a few people wanted to know about the heat situation because there's no fans on this device. This is just a large heatsink on the back. The EcoFlow app is currently telling me we're getting 230 watts of solar, and we're discharging 400 watts in total into the property, which is what it's set to do. And as you can see, it is, oh, if I get it right, it is just kind of warm radiator temperature, depending where you look on the heatsink. As you can see, this is kind of the extension of the heatsink, but it's, you know, 40. Then for reference, there's my actual radiator. It's about 6 degrees outside at the moment, or 5 degrees outside. Many people were worried about a plug overheating by that continuous load. I've been monitoring that and I have not seen really any spike in temperature. So why did I move it over here? Well, if you watch my previous videos, you'll know that I fitted not one, but two of these large batteries in the space where I had the stream devices lined up. So I've got 20 kilowatt hours of battery storage there. And that's one of the great flexible things about this. In theory, you can move it to anywhere in your house. You could plug devices directly into it. The plug sockets on the back actually have a pass-through function as well. I tested that. So this device itself could draw 1200 watts from the battery that's built into it. And if it needed more than that, then it would get the rest of the power through the grid connection. And so whichever devices are plugged into the back of this could be getting 1000 watts from the grid and 1200 watts from this device itself, and you could be powering a 2200 watt load, absolutely no problem. Now, because everything is a bit of a mess here and the cables are kind of a temporary situation, just mainly for testing, I have put down this cable protector, but these basically just run under the garage door. And apologies about all of the boxes. I've got more EV chargers, more batteries, more inverters, and I've actually got more elsewhere as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, because this year I'm going to be doing things quite differently when it comes to solar and battery storage and how I cover those on the channel. I really want to make an effort to help those people who are just trying to dip their toe into the water of solar, and maybe a bit of DIY solar as well. It's the great thing about the EcoFlow Delta series and the Stream series. They both offer a really accessible entry into solar products. And so you can just dip your toe in the water, buy something that you can afford, something that's cost effective, and see the results. And then most people, they get bitten by the bug and they scale up from there, which is really easy to do. You can expand with most of these, but the Stream series probably is the easiest of all, because it has that parallel connection that you can just piggyback these units. You could literally set up an additional module in less than 5 minutes. It's that simple. As always, I'll make sure there's links in the description below for you so you can check these products out more. There'll be a discount code for you as well, and normally those discount codes, they last for about a month, so have a look quickly. So this is my solar shed. I'll show you how I've got this wired up to the EcoFlow Stream. As you can see, it's a bit of chaos, it's a bit of a mess. Ultimately, once the permanent inverter for this solar shed is installed, then all of these panels will be wired in series. That will enable me to do this very neatly, and I won't have this jungle of cables running everywhere. But for now, we don't have that luxury. So the way that I've wired this up is that the two top panels each use their own input, one MPPT each into the Stream Ultra X. Then the next two panels down go into a parallel connector. So I'm not increasing the voltage, but we are doubling the current by wiring them in parallel. So both of these two next panels are both working together on one solar input, and then both of the bottom ones, once again, go into a parallel combiner, parallel joiner. That's probably an easy one to see. So you can see two are in there. There's availability for 4. So these two bottom panels are both wired into one input. Does that make any kind of sense? The two top ones each have one MPPT, and then the two middle ones have one MPPT shared, and the two bottom ones have one MPPT shared. That's basically what we have to do to keep it in the acceptable voltage range so that the EcoFlow Stream Ultra X is happy with it. If it rises up to the maximum and we get it up to 500 watts shared between the two panels, then it just gets clipped. There's no danger to the inverter by doing this. It literally will just draw the 500 watts and then it will basically just sit there at the full 500 watts, which I've seen just once or twice on a perfectly sunny day. You can occasionally get that, but at the moment at this time of the year, it's not really much of a danger. And my panels are kind of the wrong orientation, the wrong inclination to give the maximum power at this time of the year. And by the way, whilst we are here, all of these panels are coming off this roof. I'm going to completely redo this. I've got a different plan. Stay tuned for that. Make sure you don't miss it. This has been a bit more of a learning experience than I thought, and actually the biggest challenge with this solar shed has been condensation. I'll do a dedicated video to do with that outside of the EcoFlow stream stuff, but just stay tuned. If you're doing anything DIY solar like this, you're planning to use solar panels on a shed in any way, then make sure you stay tuned. I'll get you updated on where we're at with this whole situation and what the plan is for a completely new roof on here. Now, to connect these panels all the way down to the stream, I had to connect up about 30 meters for each run. So it's 30 meters times 4 to get the solar panel connections all the way from the bottom of the garden all the way around the front into the garage. And at the moment, as you can see, no trunking, no conduit. We've just got some cable ties holding this along the fence. Not exactly ideal, is it? These are the things we do as we experiment on a DIY kind of approach. Now let me show you how I've actually been running the system. It's now the 26th of January, and I only connected that solar shed up at the beginning of January because I wanted to compare it to 2025 in terms of generation. So this is a new thing for 2026. This is the EcoFlow app. You'll be able to see what the device is doing and how I'm operating it. So it shows you at the moment how much is coming from the solar panels. The discharge in there is showing you how much is coming from the battery. The battery state of charge at the moment is at 38%. I've got this set to just pump 400 watts of power into my home, and I will show you exactly how we do that. At the moment, you can see, as I explained on those different solar inputs, we're currently getting basically 30 watts per panel. Terrible, thick cloud, grey skies. They're 505 watt panels, but in these conditions, we're getting just over 30 watts per panel. And it's showing me at this rate, we have got 5.5 hours left on the battery. Now, I've got it. My energy delivery strategy at the moment, I've put it onto semi-automated monitoring, and that's where you can see my base load power. If I click into edit that, it shows that between 5:30 to 11:30, it's just going to give me 400 watts. Now, if it runs out of power before 11:30, then it will basically tail off and it will just go to 0. And I can pump that base load power up to 800 watts. If I got a lot more solar, then I'd be tempted to do that. As it is, I've not been making it to 11:30 just yet. I do have the smart meter installed. I haven't currently been using that because of how I've set up this strategy to work with my other solar system and my other battery. But there's a lot of other smart features you can do with a smart meter. Probably go back and see my other video to see about that. Now, I've got my charge and discharge set at 5% and set at 100%. You can set this however you feel is most appropriate. There's some recommended figures there, of course, to protect the battery if you are worried about that. You might want to set this to self-powered. You might want to set it to custom. If you set it to custom, then what you can do, as you'll see here, I have it set daily to charge, and if I tap into that, it will charge between 11:30 to 5:30. That's the time period. I'm on Octopus Intelligent Go. I get that energy at 7 pence per kilowatt hour, and I have it set so that it will charge the stream battery up to 100%, and it will charge at 700 watts. 700 watts over 6 hours, that's 4.2 kilowatts, 4.2 kilowatt hours. So I know that the battery will always get a full charge. 700 watts is just a nice safe low level, so you know it's less than 3 amps that it's charging the battery up. That just means less risk of cables overheating or anything like that. So I'd always opt for going with the minimum amount of power that you require to meet your goal of what you're trying to achieve. I've got that set to repeat daily. So that's what I've been doing for months now. Ever since I installed those other 20 kilowatt hours of battery storage, this is the strategy that I've taken. I've just been using that to charge up overnight and then to utilize that energy in the day. So what does this actually look like? If we click here, we can see, for example, solar generation for today. So far today, we generated 1.57 kilowatt hours. And if we tap off the total, We can actually see where that has come from, which MPPTs have done which. We can identify it. And this is one of the great functions with this. If you've got 4 panels on there, you can follow the traces of energy generation per panel. And it also shows us at the bottom, where has that energy gone? And so I know that most of that solar energy has come off the panels and it's been fed straight into our house. And we can look at that over the week or over the month. And you can see exactly which days I plugged in panels and reconfigured it as I found I was hitting that 500 watt limit a little bit. So far in January, those panels on the shed roof have generated 30 kilowatt hours. Pretty poor, but it's not been a great month. It's been very dark and rainy. Now there's a few other things that you might want to look at in the app here, but the one I'm going to look at specifically is the battery. Okay, if we go on to week, you can see how much energy we've used to charge the battery and how much has been discharged. And there's a bit of a discrepancy there because we haven't completed the discharge for today. But if I go last week, you can see the difference between the charge and the discharge on the battery. I go the week before. Now, let me know in the comments, what's your conclusion from these figures? The difference in the amount of energy from charge, which is taken from the grid, and then discharge, which is putting that energy back into the home. Can you see how much energy we're losing? And let me know what you think about that. And if I go on a monthly thing, you can see basically every day, pretty much charging using the same amount of energy, discharging using the same amount of energy. And we can go back in December and we can see it was even more continuous in December, possibly because I didn't have any solar connected. So the energy that we've taken from the grid, that would be about £8 worth on our cheap tariff. But if we had used this at peak rate, our normal peak rate, that would have been £32. So we can see in 1 month in the winter, we've saved £24 in electricity charges. That's not including any solar panels, any solar generation. That's just using one EcoFlow Stream Ultra X battery to basically load shift by charging up at night and using that during a peak time where the electricity would be more expensive. In 1 month, we saved £24. Now, we may not be able to do this every month of the year, but I'm confident that we could do that through the heating months. So I know at a bare minimum, we could save £150 per year just by using this kind of load shift, charging up overnight and then discharging during the day. Now, for me, the big savings really come into play when we start looking at what we can do with the solar panels, how much energy we can harness from those solar panels. Because this is kind of a recap mostly since the last one, I'm going to focus on these winter savings that people could make. So I think that's a realistic picture. If you're looking at £24 per month saving in electricity costs without any solar generation, that's kind of the starting point, the absolute bare minimum that people will be able to achieve. What do you think about that? Let me know down in the comments below. Of course, the benefit also of the system is you have plug sockets that are available in case of a power cut. So you have that kind of grid independence and you have that backup system. These devices can also integrate with existing solar panel systems. So if you don't want to plug solar panels directly into it, then you can also charge from your existing solar panels into these battery devices. Do you think that this is the game changer that I claimed it was when I was experiencing this 6 or 7 months ago? I did it, didn't I? 6 or 7 months. Oh dear, I'm so ashamed of myself right now. Thank you for watching and please join me again in the future.